Hi, welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am Dr. Renee, and today is Media Day at Meharry. And so we are so excited to present great topics, but even better people at Meharry Medical College here in Nashville, Tennessee. So first up, we have Dr. James Hildreth. Dr. Hildreth, can you explain your role here at Meharry?
Thank you, Dr. Renee. I'm the president and CEO of Meharry Medical College. I'm also professor of internal medicine, and I'm still doing research on HIV.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So you guys have a very new initiative called Change.
Together for Change.
Oh, okay. So can you explain a little more about that?
So Together for Change has two major goals. The first one requires a little bit of background. The first human genome was fully sequenced in 2003. It took 10 years. A couple thousand scientists worked on it, and it cost about between $1 and $2 billion. Now we can sequence a human genome in a matter of a few hours for a few $100s. So thousands of human genomes have been sequenced, but only a tiny fraction of them, 1.5% or so, come from folks who look like us. And the challenge there is that as human genome data sets are being studied to find new drugs, new interventions, new causes for diseases, if we're not well represented in the data set, we won't benefit from those discoveries as much as we should. So one of the main goals of Together for Change is to recruit 500,000 people of African ancestry, volunteers whose genomes will be sequenced and become part of a data set to make sure that we can benefit from genomic research as well as anybody else on the planet. The second part of it, which I think is almost as important, is to expose students K through 12 and also undergraduates to genomics, data science, and artificial intelligence research to get them inspired to pursue that as their careers. Because we need the people doing the research to be diverse, and we need a diverse data set. So those are the two main goals of Together for Change. And it's a historic partnership because we have 4 drug companies, AstraZeneca, Regeneron, Novo Nordisk, and Roche, who partnered to sponsor this work. We expect other partners to join as well, but it makes it historic because we have the 4 large pharmaceutical companies partnering with an HBCU, and that's never happened before.
That is amazing, and I can't wait to see what comes of that because I understand how very important it is that we are represented. Just like, as we were talking before about COVID.
Right.
If we weren't represented, then maybe the vaccines wouldn't work on us.
Exactly. That's exactly
So,
right.
and I think, and we talk about that a lot on our platform about how important it is that we volunteer. And forget about whatever happened in the past. We need to volunteer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that we can be seen. So how does the training component of the program contribute to building the capacity within our communities?
So within the Together for Change initiative, there are several programs that engage children and undergraduates. One of them that I'm excited about is a DNA Learning Center that we're going to set up here at Meharry. And it's going to have, again, K through 12 students come to Meharry and have a hands-on experience of doing research related to genes and genomics. We'll also have some programs for undergraduates from all of the 107 HBCUs. We're going to be inviting students from those schools to come here and elsewhere to do genomics research for a summer, in some cases for a year-long experience. I don't believe that students can get excited about something they're not exposed to. And the plain and simple truth is that many of our children and our young adults are not exposed to this amazing science. And I know for sure that when some of them get exposed to it, they're going to get excited about it and want to do this for their lifelong pursuits.
Yes, STEM is a great concept. I love, talking about STEM, but you're right. When all they seem to know when it comes to science and is engineering and doctors, and there's so many other
Absolutely.
things. So that is really amazing. It sounds like a great program. In what ways does this initiative intend to bridge the gap in the historical health inequities in our community?
Well, one of the things we have to do to make this work is to engender trust in minority communities for them to volunteer to do this. We have the same challenge with the vaccines, of course. When I spend a lot of time explaining to people how this is different from before, I always start by acknowledging that minority communities have every right to be mistrustful of medical research. So we have to start there and then explain how things are different. One of the things that I'm really afraid of is that if we don't embrace this technology and have people from our communities be a part of it, once again, we'll be on the outside looking in. And I know people think this might be hyperbole, but I don't. Artificial intelligence might be the single most important innovation in human history. And if we're not careful, and if we don't approach it the right way, ethically and making sure it's inclusive, it's going to do great harm. So one of the things I'm really insisting on in this program is that we introduce, again, to the community what this is, the power of it, the limitations of it, but also the threat of it. So I view this as another opportunity to have our communities embrace science in a way that acknowledges the things that have happened in the past, but it's so necessary for us to move forward. And I really want us to be part of this amazing new technology that's going to change the world. It's already changing the world.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Are there any specific areas of focus within health awareness that the program aims to enhance?
Sure. Well, I think that just increasing the general knowledge about genes, genomics, and all that is important. I happen to believe that deoxyribonucleic acid, also known as DNA, that makes up our genes, is the most amazing molecule in the universe. The millions and millions of species on our Earth that are all so different and diverse, they all start with some form of DNA, which makes that molecule truly incredible. It's responsible for our physical bodies, of course, but it's also responsible for diseases when there are mutations. And people may not be aware of this. Of all the populations on the Earth, African Americans and people of African ancestry have the most number of variations in our genomes compared to other population groups. It may be like 5 million or more changes in our genomes compared to others. So I want to make sure we use this occasion to elevate the general knowledge of our communities, especially, but people in general, about this amazing science. I think that we owe a lot to science for the standards of living that we have, but that's going to change and be even better. We want to be a part of it. We want our people to be a part of that change. So for me, one of the biggest things that's going to happen here is a level of community engagement that we need to do to have people accept and stick out their arms to give us a little bit of blood to sequence their DNA. Because your DNA is probably the most personal thing that you have. It makes you who you are, and we've taken lots of steps, extraordinary steps, to make sure that the privacy of the donors can be protected. But the answer to your question is we want to make sure that we enhance the knowledge of communities about genomics, data science, artificial intelligence, so they'll embrace it for what it is, which is going to change our lives in very positive ways.
So and we'll put the link. I know there's your website that they gave us. We'll put that link on the screen, and we'll also put in the comments. But can you tell people, like, how would they, how do they volunteer?
So we're going to be engaging volunteers in a number of different ways. One of them, we're engaging primary care physicians to give materials to their patients and have them give consent. Nobody's going to be forced to do this. It's all going to be volunteers. So after they've been consented by their primary care physician, we just need a small amount of blood, to sequence the DNA. In some cases, we can use swabs from the cheeks because there's sufficient materials there. But our preference would be to use blood because the DNA sequence is one thing, but the phenotype is very important. In other words, the sum total of the genes that are expressed determines our phenotype, and having blood will allow us to make some of those determinations to match the genotype to the phenotype. But again, when you go to see your primary care physician, you shouldn't be surprised if they engage you in a conversation about this. And we have several alums around the country, thousands of them. We hope to engage them in this work, but also we'll just be soliciting volunteers through radio ads on the website and other ways.
Okay.
But I want to emphasize It's all volunteer, and it's a teeny tiny amount of blood.
So I was going to ask, is there an age requirement, or is there, if someone is in a certain health condition, can they not participate?
I don't think there's going to be exclusion based on diseases,
Okay.
but there's some conversations underway right now to determine what the appropriate age range should be.
Okay.
We're not going to be, for example, taking samples from children.
Okay.
These will all be adult volunteers. And again, I want to emphasize that it's volunteers.
Yeah. But it's so important that we do volunteer, because, never know what could come from this.
Absolutely.
We could cure diabetes maybe or something, right?
Well, that's not an unexpected outcome of this because, for example, sickle cell disease is caused by a single mutation out of the 3 billion base pairs in our genome. This one change is responsible for sickle cell. There are other diseases for which we're sure it's a combination of changes
Right.
that results in the disease. But because we don't have a large enough data set and we didn't have the tools before, we couldn't determine if it's 5 genes or, 5 mutations or 10 or 100. Artificial intelligence is powerful enough with a large data set to start to make some of those determinations. And that to me is really exciting, that we'll be able to elevate our knowledge of how mutations cause disease by applying machine learning and artificial intelligence to these vast data sets that are going to be created. It's very exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah. So when does this all begin?
So we're still finalizing protocols and all of that. We think that by the end of the first quarter of 2024, we'll be ready to start collecting samples.
Okay.
The other thing that we can do is that when people have been appropriately consented, there are existing samples we can use in
Okay.
this study, which will give us a jump start.
Okay.
And there are a lot of other similar studies underway in Africa and other places. We hope to partner with some of those studies to accelerate the process we can make in doing this.
Okay. And do you have any last words for our audience in encouraging them to definitely seek this out if their doctor doesn't mention it?
I want to acknowledge, as I always do, that we have every reason and right to be mistrustful of medical research. There are familiar examples, Tuskegee, of course, Henrietta Lacks and HeLa cells, but historians can point out all the way back to 1619, the atrocities that have been visited on our bodies. So yes, we have every reason to be mistrustful, but we've entered into a new area of science that's going to be truly transformative, and we need to be a part of it. And the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you as president of Meharry Medical College signifies that we are determined to make sure that we, African Americans and minorities, are sitting at the table. We're in the room. In fact, we're going to own the room where these things are happening. And I want people to be encouraged by that and to know that the samples you provide as part of this, your identity will be protected, but the data we get from your genome can help us solve a lot of problems facing our communities and to help us achieve and accelerate achieving health equity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.